Hey guys, it is Friday. Welcome to another episode. AKP Sports Talk's favorite two. Over there is Ari. I'm Korea. You know what day it is. We both got our jerseys on, but we're gonna get into that later. First off, Ari, how you doing? How's your Friday going?
It's going pretty well. Can't complain. Hopefully, my Wi-Fi doesn't have the same issues. Yesterday the Wi-Fi was fine, so fingers crossed that continues into this morning.
Yeah, we're hoping for those, good Wi-Fi, after a very interesting episode on Wednesday. Uh, obviously we'll get into all our MLB's talk later, but first, we're gonna start with some NBA. Obviously, the playoffs are literally right down the corner as the final day of the regular season is in 2 days on Sunday, and the plan will be starting next Tuesday. A little bit of an update. So pretty much all the teams have made it. All the teams that have clinched the playoff spot have made it, and all the teams that are eliminated have been eliminated right now. So we have our field. Currently in the West right now, number one seed has been clinched by Phoenix. The Suns have clinched the best record in the whole league, followed by Memphis, who is a solid number two in the West. There's a battle for the 3 and 4 between the Warriors at 3 right now, and the 4 being Dallas, and then it follows by the 5 being Utah, and the 6 being Denver, and then the play-in for the West is 7. Right, is going to be it's already clinched. 7 is Minnesota. They're hosting the Clippers in the play-in matchup. I believe that's Tuesday, and then the 9-10 is New Orleans at 9, and then the Spurs at 10, which officially means the Lakers are eliminated from the playoffs. Ari, let's just take a look at the West right now. We'll get into the Lakers a little later. We'll start with that field, that top six range. What do you like right now out of those top six teams? Who do you have potentially making it, to that Western Conference Finals if the season ended today from those top six teams?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the Suns are the clear, odds-on favorite to get out of the West, and it's going to be tough to, beat them 4 times. But I mean, it should be. I don't think they're going to cruise through. I mean, you see what Memphis has been doing without Ja, and they should get him back fully healthy for the first round. Of course, we all know how dominant the Warriors can be, and it sounds like Steph should be fully healthy for round one. Um, you can't count Dallas at Luca. So yeah, I mean, I think it should be a pretty. I think the East is going to be a little bit more fun in terms of the first, second rounds into the conference championship, but the West definitely has a small handful of teams that should be competitive to try to get out of the West to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, right now you look at those top six teams. You have the Suns, obviously, now getting healthier and healthier with Devin Booker, CP3. You see Mikal Bridges being a breakout defensive player of the year candidate. They have Cam Johnson. They have those pieces. DeAndre Ayton. They've just went to the finals last year, and then you have Memphis, who is doing great right now, and they still don't have their star in John Moran, who's probably coming back, definitely coming back for the first round, and they'll play the winner of the plan situation. And then the Warriors obviously don't have Steph right now. As a Warriors fan, I'm a little more optimistic that he'll be coming back for the first round, and that'll be a huge boost because we'll finally have our big three with Steph, Clay, and Draymond for the first time, probably for the first round all season. Since they've only played a total of 11 minutes together on the court, it's kind of crazy to think that all three have barely played together this season, and we're still this good, a 50-win team in the East. And you can't count out Dallas. Dallas is making strides. They're getting out at the right time. Luca and just pretty much that whole team is playing really well right now. And then followed behind them, you got the Jazz. The Jazz are in an interesting situation, obviously, with the whole Donovan Mitchell situation. There's friction between him and Gobert. There's a lot of locker room issues. So Utah will definitely be interesting to see how they finish the regular season. And then obviously one of the biggest sleepers is number 6, Denver. Kind of crazy to think that Denver's all the way down at 6. So it shows you how crowded this West Conference is. But now we're going to get into that play-in. 7 right now is already clinched is Minnesota. Great for them. 8 is the Los Angeles Clippers, who are getting healthier, obviously, with now Paul George coming back. The 9 right now is the New Orleans Pelicans, and then the 10 is the San Antonio Spurs. Ari, right now, what do you like out of this play-in? Who do you really like to make it and to make it to the first round if the season ended?
Yeah, so I think Timberwolves Clippers should be a really fun game for that number 7 seed. I really like the Timberwolves core with Russell, Towns, Anthony Edwards dropped 49 the other day, so he I think he's had it was his 5th game of at least 40 points, which is tied with LeBron for the most games of that margin before like he turned 22 or 21 or something like that. So clearly, he's coming into his own. Towns, he won the 3-point contest. He's having one of the best years of his career. And then Russell's just always that, he's that kind of veteran that at point guard for them, who can drop 20, 25 any given night. And then, the Clippers getting Paul George back has been huge. They were already playing pretty well even before he came back. And, of course, getting a player of his caliber back is going to be huge. And then we have the Pelicans hosting the Spurs. Spurs kind of came out of nowhere and to some degree passing the Lakers pretty late in the season after I'd say like a month ago no one thought that they were going to make the play-in, and then now here they are. Another pretty young team. So I think I like the Pelicans beating them with McCollum, Brandon Ingram at home in that 9-10. And then, I don't know, Minnesota Clippers is going to be really tough. I'm kind of leaning towards Minnesota with that home court, but it should be a really fun game. But then I think that the Clippers would beat the Pelicans for that number 8 spot. So if I'm making a prediction right now, I think I would say Minnesota 7 and then Clippers taking the 8 seed.
Yeah, I feel you there. We'll give you our full predictions for the play-in as it's revealed. As the season ends on Sunday, we'll give all our actual predictions on Monday. But I like Minnesota as well. Obviously, you talk about that big three with Karl-Anthony Towns having a fantastic year. His 3-point percentage is through the roof. He just won the 3-point contest, so big improvement for him shooting-wise. Anthony Edwards, obviously breakout player. He almost dropped 50 last night. We talk about just his scoring ability. And then you have D'Lo, who can drop 20 to 25 on any given night. And in a very big game like this, like it may help Minnesota to have that home field advantage against the Clippers in that play-in game. But I mean, I do like the Clippers as well. Obviously, now getting healthier and healthier as they get toward the playoffs. Looking pretty consistent. It'll be tough. I do like those two teams making the playoffs, Minnesota and Los Angeles. But I actually have the Clippers winning in Minnesota, and then Minnesota beating New Orleans, and then them clinching the 8th seed. That'll be that's pretty interesting matchups. You have Suns versus Timberwolves potentially in the first round, and then Memphis versus Los Angeles. That'd be good, 2 intriguing matchups. But shout out to the Spurs. I mean, another year under their belt. We talk about the young core that they have. They're obviously a very young team, and kind of a surprise to see them just surge as of recently past the Lakers, who have been very much struggling. I think on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak. Ari, we've been waiting for this time right now. It was officially announced after their game against the Suns on Tuesday that the Los Angeles Lakers have officially been eliminated after their loss, and it was a very in bad fashion, the Lakers losing in against Phoenix. So the questions down there, Ari, what does this team do? I mean, there's so many directions this team can go. Obviously, there's Pelinka and Buss. It can go in the front office. There's coaching with Frank Vogel, obviously, and his questionable coaching. There's players like Russ, just not playing well anymore. Where does this team need to go to get back to the success that they had in their Mickey Mouse, the bubble championship?
Yeah, I don't even I was looking at LeBron's contract. He has 1 more year left under his current contract with the Lakers, and I don't even know if it's a guarantee he's going to be back in LA. It just seemed like late in the season he was just kind of just out of it, and he kind of knew that even if they snuck into the play-in there, they weren't going to go anywhere. I think first step they're going to fire Frank Vogel. I think that's pretty much inevitable at this point. But I mean, even I don't know, it wouldn't shock me if LeBron forced his way out of LA this offseason. But then again, it's 1 more year until Bronny's going to be in the NBA, I believe. So maybe he waits out this one more year in LA to see where Bronny goes, and then he'll go, where Bronny's drafted. I think that's his plan at this point, is to play 1 year at Bronny and then retire. Or maybe it's 2 years till Bronny gets in. I'm not 100% sure, but whatever the deal is, we've talked about before about him going back to Cleveland potentially. I think that's a possibility. He was asked the other day about what one player he'd want to play with, and he said Steph Curry. And so that would break the NBA if he went to the Warriors. But yeah, and then there's if he stays in LA, maybe there's a chance that they trade Westbrook again. Yeah, like you said, there's a million different ways that they could go this offseason, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, you've seen it. I've seen it from so many different perspectives. Obviously, we can talk about the front office and them trading for Russell Westbrook when obviously they were in contention for DeMar DeRozan, who is obviously having a lights out season in Chicago, or Buddy Hield, actually someone who's a consistent shooter. And they went with Russell Westbrook, and everyone was kind of confused, but it proved evident to be that, that was not the right decision. Russell Westbrook, obviously not a great season for him. This was one of his down years. He's been injured as of recently, but still just a down year for Russell Westbrook. Everyone was trying to see when he would pick it up, like regular Russell Westbrook does around March, and when he gets back into MVP candidate status. But did not happen this year, and now you're stuck with what do you do with Russell Westbrook? Obviously, now he's being linked to potentially being traded to the Hornets, and that could be something of intrigue because I think the Hornets, they have those shooters. They have LaMelo Ball, who's actually that leader, that point guard. But I think they want someone who's more of a rim attacker, and I think that would be perfect for Charlotte to acquire Russell Westbrook potentially. But I mean,
I feel like Westbrook and LaMelo together is like a recipe for disaster. I don't know how they would work together.
There's two sides that I was gonna say. Like, there's the other side where two of the same players in terms of their ability on a team like that, I think it's going to clash. And so I don't know why the Hornets are really going at the same time. Like, it could be intriguing, but you mentioned the whole LeBron thing. I think Bronny has 2 years left. I think he's still a junior in high school or a senior, one of those two. So I think he is a junior in high school. So he has 2 more years before he's eligible. And obviously we've heard that LeBron just wants to play 1 year with his son and then retire. So that's probably 3 years away. He's talked about the Warriors potentially linking up with Steph. I don't want him to link up with, if he's on the Warriors, I don't want that. I don't want the NBA to hate us again. Look, we already went through that with KD. We don't need to do that with LeBron. Yeah. So, and then Steph said no. So that's already good. But there were the rumors to Cleveland back around All-Star break when LeBron, was going to be coming home to Cleveland for the All-Star game. He was asked if he would come back. He said that the door's not closed. So, he's already putting, hints of doubt that after his last year as a Laker, he's definitely leaving the organization and probably going somewhere else. Depending on where that somewhere else is kind of dependent on whether or not Bronny, but I don't know what the deal with Bronny is. Obviously, Bronny's a very talented player, but it's his dad. His dad you may want to push him to go to school more, so he may make him stay down there for and not go to the NBA draft after the 1 year of eligibility. May push him to go down to 2 or 3 years, get an education. You never know. But the Lakers, it's just sad. It's just really sad. They had so high expectations this year, but a lot of people are starting to clown them because they were the all-star team of 2012 in terms of how old their veterans really are, and they don't have no young core, and it proved to be evident. I mean, Carmelo, he was a contributor, but not a great contributor to that team. Anthony Davis is so fragile. He's pretty much class at this point. LeBron can't do it by himself anymore. Russell Westbrook can't hit a shot to save his life sometimes. It's just sad. And then obviously with Frank Vogel, as his coaching decisions, not great at all. So it just seems that this Laker team is just trending in the wrong direction once again. And I think that one title that they got during the during their bubble run back in 2020, I think that's going to be their one title that they hold on to, because I just don't. I think as the West gets more and more competitive and all these younger guys like your John Morants and the younger generation of the league gets more and more together and have more experience, it's going to prove to be evident to be too much for the Lakers, and I think they're going to do a complete fire sale after LeBron leaves, because once LeBron leaves, everyone else is leaving. So that'll be interesting to see how the Lakers do. But I want to talk about the Eastern playoff picture right now as well. Since we were talking about the West first. Right now in the East, Miami has clinched the number one seed overall after Boston and Philadelphia did lose last night in their respective games. There was a little bit of a shakeup after those games. So now Miami has clinched the number one. They have clinched the best record in the East, and that's followed by the number two team, which is Milwaukee. The Bucks with a big win over the Celtics last night at home, moved them up to 2 and moved the Celtics down to 3. The Celtics are now in the 3 slot. Followed behind them is the Sixers at 4, the Raptors at 5, and then the Bulls at 6. We're now trending the wrong direction. And then actually we'll go with the play in a little later, but those top 6 right now, you have matchups between Celtics and Bulls potentially in the first round, and Sixers Raptors. What do you think of the East? Obviously, we talked about how a little more competitive, a lot more fun it's going to be this year. I'm excited to see how the East turns out and to see these potential first round matchups. Ari, what are you excited about the East right now?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, how the West has 3, maybe 4 contenders, whereas the East, I could see 5, 6, 7, teams could make it. You can make a case for it to represent the East in NBA Finals. It's been a pretty impressive jump for Toronto. They are kind of in the playing picture for most of the year, but they've been really playing really well recently. We've talked about the Celtics before and their recent play as of late. Even without Robert Williams, they still look really good. The Bulls, huge fall down to earth. They're the 2-3 seed for a while. Now they're all the way down to 6. And then Cleveland too is kind of in that 5-6, and now we'll get into them in the play-in. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously you can't count out the defending champions in Milwaukee. The Heat are the number 1 team for a reason. They've been playing less than full health for most of the year too. Philly with Harden and Embiid. Toronto with Siakam, Van Fleet, Gary Trent. Even with the Bulls not playing well as of late, you still can't count them out. With DeMar and Levine, assuming he's fully healthy. They've clearly been missing the Alonzo, who's out for the season, so that's going to be big for them in the playoffs. But they did get Caruso back recently. But yeah, I mean, it should be a fun Eastern Conference playoffs where you can make a case for almost all the top 8 seeds to make a run.
Yeah, you talk about it. First with Miami, obviously they are invested in now. They're trying to win now. You have Jimmy Butler, you have Kyle Lowry, you have a squad down there, Bam Adebayo. They have pieces, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. They still have those 2 coming off the bench and being consistent role players. So you can see that Miami is not even at full strength, and they're playing some of their best basketball. You can't rule out the defending champs. Milwaukee, obviously Giannis is that dude. We've seen him do so much ridiculous stuff last season and this season. He keeps, breaking barriers. He's gained so much respect in this league, and Giannis, he's just being that dude. The Celtics are still thriving, even though obviously the loss of Robert Williams is going to prove to be very evident in the playoffs. They're still thriving up with Tatum and Brown, J&J, the two that duo, along with their big role pieces with Grant Williams and all those guys up in Boston. Obviously, you can't rule out the Sixers with both Harden and Embiid. That kind of 1-2 combo is pretty much working. And, this may be like what were they calling? Oh, the process. Yeah, this is definitely the process 2.0 right now for them. And I think their first year, it could be proven to, be an attractive commodity down in Philadelphia. And then obviously with Toronto, you have Siakam, Van Vliet playing great seasons this year. You have Trent, you mentioned, Precious Achua, great season
Scotty
for him.
Barnes.
Yeah, I even got to mention Scotty Barnes. Yeah, he was picked that high for a reason. A lot of people were confused when he was picked so high out of Florida State. I think it was 4th overall in that draft class. He was 4th overall in the latest draft class, and people were shocked, but he's proved him to be a key role player for Toronto this year. And then the Bulls, obviously, we talked about the loss of Lonzo, but they did get Caruso back. Can DeMar do it? I mean, DeMar is having a great season, but I don't know if he can do it just with him and Levine, especially in the stacked Eastern Conference. But it'll be very exciting to see how the Eastern Conference, forms out after Sunday, and then how the play-in forms out as well. But speaking of the play-in, the 4 teams that are locked in the play-in right now, the 7, and it's very close. All teams are separated by within 2 games. So home field of court is definitely going to be a big factor between all 4 of these teams. Right now, the 7 is currently Cleveland. The 8 is Brooklyn. The 9 is Atlanta, and the 10 is Charlotte. And I mean, right now, Brooklyn and Atlanta are tied, with Charlotte being 1 game behind of Atlanta and Cleveland being 1 game ahead of Brooklyn. And Cleveland plays Brooklyn tonight. So, I mean, that's a huge game. That's pretty much the play-in game right there, part 1. And with how these teams have been playing down the stretch, this is such a close play-in. I have no idea who to pick. Obviously, we want to pick Brooklyn, but who do you like out of this play-in right now? And what do you think? I know you were going to talk about Cleveland's struggles as of late. Do you think they'll continue as they enter the play-in?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the team that stands out the most is Brooklyn with Durant and Kyrie. But I mean, even since they lifted the mandate in Brooklyn and Kyrie's able to play at home, it hasn't really made like a huge difference. It doesn't seem like obviously, Durant and Kyrie can combine for 80 any given night, but they combined for 86 against Atlanta and still lost that game. So it's like defense is clearly their biggest, struggle. And Ben Simmons is not at least going to be back for the play-in. And even if he's back for the playoffs, it's going to be so long since he's stepped on the court that it's been so long since he stepped on the court that who knows what kind of impact he'll really have. I mean, push comes to shove in 1 game, I'm going to take Brooklyn, led by KD and Kyrie in a 1-game play-in situation, but. Like we see in March Madness, 1 game any team can win. Any team can have 1 player have the game of their life and carry their team to a win. So yeah, we should be a good game tonight between Brooklyn and Cleveland. That would be a preview potentially for the play-in, but maybe not if Brooklyn loses and Atlanta wins their last game, and then there's Cleveland, Atlanta, and then Brooklyn, Charlotte. It would be. But yeah, it should be a good play-in.
Yeah, I think it's just so close between all 4 of these teams that you can make a case for either one. Obviously, the strongest one goes to Brooklyn, but you mentioned one of the key things holding them back is their defense. Like you mentioned, KD and Kyrie, they can put up 86 combined points, but they'll still lose just because of how poor their defense is. And that could be on Steve Nash and everything, or as obviously Steve Nash, the head coach, or it could just be their style of play. Who knows what that could be on, but that could be a huge factor in the play-in. And obviously, you mentioned Ben Simmons not going to be in the play-in and very questionable for the playoffs. And as someone who has not played a single game with this team, that'll prove to be evident on the court if he does come back for the playoffs and he's eligible to play. I mean, how is he going to flow with KD and Kyrie? We haven't seen that all season, and we haven't seen Ben Simmons in a very long time. So it'll be definitely a huge question mark for them. You mentioned Atlanta. They are definitely having a struggle season, but still made it in the playoffs. After last season, they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe they can have a big run this year, led by their star. New York hates him, Trae Young. The villain of New York, Trae Young. I believe he can, if he gets hot, it's game over for the other team. You see what Cleveland is doing this year with their young core, with Garland, and you can't sleep on Cleveland anymore because next year they're going to have Colin Sexton, fully healthy, for that full season probably. And just, this team is building. They have Karis LeVert, who they traded for. They still have Jared Allen. Evan Mobley's having a great year for them first year. And then Charlotte, I think they're one piece away, but Charlotte's always going to be competing hard, and especially in this game like scenario, and they have something to play for. Considering last year they made the play-in and got embarrassed by Indiana in the first game. So, yeah, the East is going to be fun. It's so close, you can't call it right now. But obviously we have games tonight like Cleveland and Brooklyn. And I believe that's in Brooklyn, and like that's just a preview. Obviously, Atlanta still has to finish their season. Same for Charlotte, so it'll be good as they go down the end of the season. But we're going to transition from NBA to MLB now. This one's pretty close to us. This happened this morning. Mariners extended J.P. Crawford's contract. He is now staying here for another 5 years. He gets $51 million in that deal. Ari, I love this deal for him. What are your thoughts on this extension for J.P. Crawford?
Yeah, it's huge. He's one of the, the main leaders in the clubhouse last year in that run. And, he kind of talked about how his career was kind of in a dark place in Philly. He's one of the Phillies' top prospects and didn't really pan out, to expectations, when he was called up by the Phillies, but then he got traded to Seattle. And ever since then, he's kind of, been a different player. He's kind of blossomed into the player that, they thought he was in the Phillies farm system. I think it was 2020 he won the Gold Glove. And then last year he was a super, super good, contact hitter at the top of the Mariners lineup, hitting 273. And yeah, it's just kind of overall kind of confidence, swagger, leadership, like I said before, in the clubhouse that, as the tables turn in this Seattle organization and they, look to hopefully make the playoffs this upcoming year and break that long drought. He's kind of made it clear that he wants to be a part of that. And, I think it's a good deal for him. It's a pretty team-friendly deal, for the Mariners. And, yeah, it's a good way to ride into opening day.
Yeah, I loved every single thing about this. We brought back JP. He's been improving ever since 2020 after his Gold Glove year. And now his bat's improving. You mentioned hitting. He's hitting 273. Now he's at near the bottom of the lineup, but still in a very stacked lineup. We need someone who was a leader in the clubhouse during that run last season, and he's there. And we have linked him for another 5 years. He's definitely going to be a leader in this clubhouse. Obviously, he could have gotten way much more money, but he obviously he's putting the team first. And that just shows his character. That shows you that he is invested not for himself, but for the team and for the fans. And it's just something that you just love to see every time, someone that you love, that this organization loves, they bring him back. And he's not only thinking about himself, but he's thinking about this team. Just gives us some extra boost and momentum heading into the season. But you mentioned just how JP is so crucial to this team after his stint in Philly. He was obviously being shadowed, you mentioned it, and then he comes to Seattle and he blossoms. And now he's such a key part of this organization. I still remember literally the day after the season ended, Jerry DiPoto said JP Crawford's our everyday shortstop. And that meant so much to me. And seeing how impactful that man really was. And we were going after guys like Trevor Story, obviously, and he would have played short, but no, JP is our guy. So, something great to see this morning heading into the season, just a little momentum and extra, feel good boost for the Mariners as they head into opening day today. But we're going to wrap things up about talking about yesterday's opening day. It was pretty mundane, honestly, until the nightcap game for Seth Beer on National Beer Day. What a story. First off, I got to say, Shohei Ohtani looked impressive, 9 Ks against the Astros. It was pretty eventful throughout the nightcap. You saw the Cardinals just pour out on the Pirates, 9 runs to get the win. Ari, what were your biggest takeaways from these opening day teams that played yesterday?
Yeah, there's a few. I'll start off with the Brewers, the first game of the season. The Cubs beating the Brewers 5-4. The Brewers have one of the best pitching rotations, and bullpens. We talked about that in the Brewers preview, but their biggest what hurt them the most last year was their offense. And we kind of saw that again, in this opening game. Kyle Hendricks was coming off a really, really bad year last year, and he kind of, shut them down. One run over 5 in the third he allowed. I know Hendricks has had some success against the Brewers in the past couple of years, even despite his struggles. So, you can attribute that to that. But, obviously the Brewers, they're a huge favorite in the NL Central, and for good reason with that pitching staff. But they're definitely going to need the bats to, step up a lot more than what they did last year if they want to make a deep run, in the playoffs. So that was one. And then the second game of the season, the Royals beat the Guardians 3-1. And it was, I think it was 1-1 in the, I think, 7th or 8th. It was 1-1 in the 8th when Bobby Witt Jr. had his first career hit. And it was a go-ahead double. And then he scored on a single by Andrew Benintendi on the next batter to score. So that was really cool to see Bobby Witt Jr. make his major league debut. Another one of the top prospects, in the all of baseball. You mentioned the Cardinals over the Pirates. It was cool to see, Albert Pujols, even though he didn't really do anything at the plate. It's just cool to see him back in St. Louis in front of that home crowd. And then, Ohtani, he only went 4 in the third, but he had 9 strikeouts. So, of course, typically speaking, when you have a lot of strikeouts, that's going to raise your pitch count. And so I think he had 80 pitches through 4 2/3, and they took him out when he was going to face Michael Brantley, who was 2 for 2 at the time. And so, that was a good idea. But he's still able to hit, and it was, I think, the Astros had back-to-back home runs to take a 3-0 lead, I think in the 8th inning, I believe it was. And the Angels tried to make a late comeback. They had a couple of close calls. There's Ohtani almost hit one out. I think it was Matt Vasgersian, the Angels announcer. He thought it was going to – the way he called it, it sounded like it was going to be long gone, and it reached the warning track. But, yeah, it was a really impressive start by Framber Valdez for the Astros, going 6 2/3, shutout, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. So, yeah, even though the Angels were the favorite in this game, the Astros still, stepped up. Alex Bregman looked pretty good. He struggled last year, so he'll look to bounce back this year. He went 2 for 4, 2 RBIs. And, yeah, you mentioned the Seth Beer to cap off opening day. With the implosion by the Padres bullpen, it was like back-to-back walks, I think, a hit batter, a wild pitch, and then that led to a hanging off-speed pitch that, Beer just absolutely crushed. And yeah, that was mostly most of my takeaways.
Yeah, you mentioned it for that first game as well between the Brewers and Cubs. The Brewers' lack of offense, proved to be evident right there. Christian Yelich had an 0 for day. Wasn't really strong at the plate. McCutchen was pretty much one of the weak contributors. Also McCutchen, the first ever DH to hit a baseball in an NL versus NL regular season game. Shout out to him. But other than him, it was not really it was pretty slow offensive day for the Brewers. And on, just for the Cubs offense, I mean, we saw them, just start, to get Burns off his rocker. I mean, what was it, Horner, that 2-run homer, and we saw Seiya Suzuki, get his first MLB hit. Great story for him. So it was kind of interesting to see the Cubs, just, swing the bats early and then kind of, make Milwaukee have to play the catch-up game. It proved to be evident that that was not going to happen because the Cubs, got that opening day win. But also we talk about, the Ohtani game. That was fun to watch, especially with Vasgersian talking about that, fly ball to right field. It looked and sounded like in the crowd that I was like at least going 400 feet, but it was just a routine fly ball to right field, and I was like, okay, well, okay.
It seemed like there's a number of those. Just kind of watching different games, there's a number of different fly balls that, I guess maybe like I think it's like during the summer months they'll fly out, but kind of early in the year whatever the weather in different cities it doesn't contribute to letting the ball carry, I guess you could say. But yeah, there's a number of fly balls like that.
Yeah, you can definitely say that is definitely one of the keys there. Also, a game that we didn't really talk about, Atlanta versus Cincinnati. That was something that was really surprising to me. You see Atlanta just not be able to swing the bats. They lost 6-3 against the Reds. Tyler Mahle, great mound appearance for him. He went 5 innings, got the win, 7 Ks for him. Max Fried, he just got rocked. He let 5 runs come in. He pitched 5 2/3 innings. Got some Ks, but eventually got handed the loss yesterday. Just very offensive day for Cincinnati, considering we didn't expect Cincinnati to really have that much of an offense. So great start for them. One of my other takeaways is definitely going to be Seth Beer. I mean, that was amazing on National Beer Day. You talk about the Padres implosion in the bullpen. It was kind of surprising to see just how, bad that bullpen really looked yesterday. I mean, it just imploded. I mean, if they had a comfortable lead, you talk about the walk, the wild pitches, the hit by pitch, and then just the hanging curve. Seth Beer crushes out to right field. It's just like, it's telling tale. It could be something that could be coming to bite them in the butt as the season continues. Also, one quick thing, that Mets Nationals game, that was pretty intriguing as well. The Mets had the bats going. So it looks like the Mets offense can, win them games as well as they're pitching. That's something to really keep looking forward to as we, as the season continues. There's only one game though, obviously, so they still have 161 more to go. But great start for the Mets.
Tyler Miguel was really impressive though. 5 shutout. I think he was only at like 60 pitches, and they took him out like super early. I don't know why that was the case, but shout out to him. Kind of in the pressure of opening day, with no DeGrom or Scherzer being able to take him out on opening day. Scherzer is taking him out today. But shout out to Miguel. He showed flashes last year in his rookie year, and he'll look to take that step forward this year. I'm not sure if he's going to be a full-time starter though, like once DeGrom's healthy. But I mean, DeGrom might be out, a month and a half or so. So Miguel will have time to kind of show out.
Yeah, definitely. So that was opening day recap. Obviously, we have our own opening day today. Mariners play the Twins at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. Well, 4:10 Eastern. That game's going to be one that we're both watching. And we're going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. Tune to us on Monday. It's going to be a big NBA day. Obviously, we're going to be talking about some of the first-round matchups that have been clinched, as well as all of the playing games, which start on Tuesday. We'll be giving some of our picks for who we'd like to officially come out of the playing games. 2 of them are on Tuesday, and then the other 2 are on Wednesday, and then it continues to Friday. So we'll give you – it's going to be a big NBA week next week. And also we will also be talking about MLB, obviously, as with any headlines. And as we get near the NFL draft, we'll be giving you some of our analysis on the top picks and potentially what the Seahawks could do this draft after a interesting offseason, to say the least. But this has been an episode of AKP Sports Talk with the favorite 2. We will see you guys on Monday.